He was, in fact, the first self-winding perpetual calendar ever produced by any Swiss manufacturer in series. Donc, he has a very modern look. Look, this
Yeah,
nice
that's
couple of watch.
yeah,
And this is
the case.
the production of the 1962. Donc, who looks very, very modern, of course, with a triangular shape, lapidated lugs. Donc, of course, and this one is, he was never worn. Of course, he has some scratches, but he was never used. Maybe
Really?
wear one or two times, but it's absolutely untouched. And the watch
Wow.
coming also with boxes, certificates, and the condition on this one was never polished.
Okay. So the estimate is 200 to 400,000. Welcome back, watch fans. We have an amazing episode for you today. We have a follow-up on the FutureGrail Patek Philippe auction. We did last week. We had the interview with Ali. He's the CEO and the founder of the auction house, and now we have Arnaud Tellier, who's joining us. He is the specialist in house, and of course, he's also one of the world's leading expert on Patek Philippe. Being, I think you worked at, or no, you worked at the. I think you were the original director of the Patek Museum. If is that right?
Yes, hello everybody. First of all, yes, I establish and run the museum between 2000 and 2012.
Okay, so that's an
In fact,
amazing run. And so you had incredible access to the archives. You handled incredible watches, and we can get into it. I think you also, you were responsible for adding to the collection, curating the collection, and you're also a very talented watchmaker. I actually saw one of your the watch that you created, which was amazing. Maybe we can talk about that later, but that was way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time.
but basically, I am from French origin. I coming in Switzerland when I was 20 years old to finish my graduation as a regular watchmaker. 4 years of school in Switzerland, and after I specialized for 2 years in the Museum of Horology, International Horology in La Chaux-de-Fonds to graduate as a technician in restoration of antique watches. In 1990, I joined Antiquorum, the company who was founded by Osvaldo Patrizzi, and I work with him and experts like Jean-Claude Sabrier, Simon Bull, and I was trainee as expert during this period. And in 2000, I joined Patek Philippe to establish the museum. The museum opened in November 2001, and I worked for them just less 12 years. And after I
That's
become independent, and since a few months I'm working with Mr. Ali Nael in Singapore for FutureGrail.
okay. So it's amazing. So this is, I mean, you're a tremendous resource for this auction house, and so we're gonna have some interesting discussion on Patek. And again, so right now, so September 14th, which is 2 days from now, is going to be the auction. It's online, and I think we covered a couple of the lots last time, but today I want to kind of dive into a few of the lots. Let me bring up on screen, and maybe you can show a couple of these. You know, I just want to mention some of the pocket watches. You actually have some very you have some, I think, really good prices right now. Again, it's still early. You know, it's an auction, so you never know if somebody comes in at the last minute. But the
Yes, of
prices are
course.
very good. You have the buyer's premium is only 5%, which is that's a big plus. Now I want to. Can you? There's a couple of lots. I'm actually kind of interested myself. So, can you Can you bring up lot 4, the pocket watch? Here, this.
Yes, I have this watch right now in my hands. Donc it's a really nice
Wow.
watch in really good condition. Donc it's a typical of what they call at the time modern case. Donc it was a new shape of dress watch. Donc this dress watch coming back in fashion after the World War, because during the World War, of course, people start to wear the watch on the wrist, and after the World War, for evening or things like that, donc they start to wear ultra thin pocket watches in a three-piece suit with a gold chain or a platinum chain, depends the material of the watch. And here we have a very good example of a watch of this type made roughly 1940. Donc it's typical of what Patek produced. It's a double signed Bayer in Zurich, who was one of the biggest retailer of Patek at the time.
So it's the design is so classic. I mean, I love the hands, everything about it is, and that kind of translated, I think, into the wristwatches or vice versa. But it's a beautiful watch. So the estimate is, what is it? It's for
Yes, something like that, 4 to 8,000.
five. Oh, so it looks like 5 to 10,000, and the current bid is only 4,400. So this is like, this is a pretty good deal if it sells at that price. That's like a steal. And then you have the two-tone, the pink. Is that a pink gold next to it right
Yes,
there?
exactly. But you have to understand at the moment these pocket watches are really undervalued. Because since more of 1 decade, people really collect vintage wristwatches, and the market was very strong for this type of pieces in the 1980s, 1990s. But after, when the wristwatch go up on the pocket watches, this market was a little bit down, and now it's a good time to buy some of the fabulous example. And this one also, it's a kind of a modern shape, very elegant, typical of the Art Deco period, and you can see it's a two-tone dial. And the dial also is in amazing condition, and it's very typical of what Patek Philippe produced at this time.
Now I'm looking at the catalog. It looks like it's got also a double signature. Is it double signature from Eberhard Milan?
Not this one, maybe another lot. The lot
Am I looking at
8. It was maybe the lot number 6 who have a double
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm looking.
signature.
Okay, that's right. You're showing lot number 8 right now. Lot
Yes,
8.
yes.
This is it. Okay. And this is, so it's kind of yeah. So this is this a two-tone kind of? Is this a pink on? Is this
The
technically?
watch, the case is fully made in pink gold, and the dial is a tone.
Okay, and Ali loves the two-tone gold
Yes,
watches, I think, right?
yeah, the two-tone,
It's a
three-tone
favorite.
is already the favorite of Ali. It's why he has also amazing private collection about this type of things.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a question in terms of pocket watches. I really do think that pocket watches is. We talked about it on the last live stream. We can spend hours about this, but in terms of how do you feel about pocket watches? My kind of the theory I have, and tell me if this is completely crazy, but the real pocket watches would have to be up until, let's say, the 1930s, maybe, because at that point wristwatches took over, so that it's a different modern. I would consider this almost a modern pocket watch. 1940s, 30s,
Yes,
40s. It's almost a
everything
modern
was
era.
yeah, everything was made after the World War One, donc in the 1920s and later. We can call them modern watches. especially it was during the Art Deco period for the German, the Bauhaus style. And of course, the shape of the case changed from the basin shape was very fashionable in the early 1900s. Now, after the 1920s, the pieces become more square, more modern shape.
But how do you feel in terms of? I wish we could have Ali also because he can talk about the market. But how do you feel about um, I hate to use the word, but in upside potential, the investment potential, sort of modern pocket watches, meaning like 1930s through 50s or 60s versus the historically traditional 19th century or earlier. Because I kind of I guess what I'm trying to say is I kind of feel that once the wristwatch became popular, starting in the I guess 1920s 30s, the pocket watch became obsolete. So it's almost like where people, it's a different kind of era for. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yes, and especially donc these pocket watches were most used as dress watches for evening events, for example, when you have to go to a party, to the opera, to the restaurant, things like that. Donc people still wearing a three-piece suit, and they wear this type of watches. But at the end, most of these watches from this period are kept in really, really good condition because they are
Yeah.
very little. They use people use not as a daily watch like a wristwatch. Donc they use sometimes, and most of them you can find with untouched dial, original condition.
Okay, so that's an interesting point, right? Because I think these sort of modern era pocket watches, people maybe, like you said, they wore them on special occasions. It was, they almost, I think a lot of them were given maybe as gifts, and they were
Yes, yes.
probably kept in the box, and that's it. That's nobody, so
That's
it's
why
interesting.
we can find more easily. It's more easily to find a pristine condition pocket watch from this period, the 20s, 30s, 40s, than a wristwatch. And for me, it's very important because you can really study, especially this two-tone, three-tone, sector dial, all the dial used in the wristwatches was, of course, used at the same period in the pocket watches. And more often, you find this dial in perfect condition on the pocket watches, and it's a good point of reference for experts to really understand the condition of untouched dial in comparison of a dial who can be restored later.
Arnaud, I want to bring up lot 15, which is
Yes,
the amazing pocket watch. That's a tell us about this watch. And we need to hear the watch also.
yes, yes. He'll strike the watch. Donc, from technical point of view, the movement is built on a repeater movement caliber. Donc, he strikes elapsed hours, and after a double sound for the quarter, and after the minutes. And this one is also fitted with a perpetual calendar and moon phase. Donc, about this one, donc it's also fitted in a very modern, heavy, super elegant case. Donc, this one was made on special request in 1962. The year Patek launched the new perpetual calendar wristwatch reference 3448, who was also fitted with a very modern case at the time. And about records I have in my memory from the 1919s, when I spoke with Mr. Peter Knoll who show me some photos of this collection, and some of them when he come in Geneva from New York. I remember this watch. Donc this watch, in my opinion, but he was also confirmed by a few people like Mr. Auro Montanari and some other old expert in Geneva. Donc this one was especially made for Peter Knoll, who was the son of the Knoll family, the famous
Furniture
furniture
people?
designer. Yes, yes,
Oh, really? Oh,
yes. And
this was
Peter,
made. This was made so this okay. So this is a perpetual calendar minute repeater. Now
yes,
the movement. Okay, the camera just went out, but the camera went dark.
yeah,
I don't know,
he
but
will coming back soon.
there we go. Okay, so the movement is from the 19th century, right?
Yes, they use, like very often they do at Patek Philippe, donc they still have some ébauche, or they still have some movement, but here, on the request of the gentleman, it was a watch, a full watch was made in the 1970s, sold in the 1970s, and when he come in Geneva, he requested to change the case and to make a new dial with a new layout, more modern. Maybe the enamel dial was broken, maybe the condition of the case was maybe little bit used, but in any case, they take the movement with the perpetual calendar device, and they made a new dial, and they fit all of that with this new, very heavy, impressive case. Donc they give to
Okay,
the watch a reference number, and in fact, it's the only one was this reference 862, if I properly remember. You can
okay.
see stamped inside with all the Patek data.
Okay. And this is we got an estimate of 100 to 200,000. The
Yes.
current bid is 82,000. And so this was made for, you said, was it the son of the Knoll furniture? Was it France? Was it I think Francis Knoll, I think was it
No,
the
no,
son
it
of
was
the
from Danish origin, established in the US. Now I just don't remember the name of the father, but the mother was Florence Knoll, who was also a famous designer. And the son,
yeah.
Peter Knoll, was very well known as a Patek Philippe collector. He bought a lot of pieces in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Part of his collection was sell 20 years ago at auction in New York. And after he belonged, few pieces were with another Nevadian collector.
Okay. So no, it's interesting. So Peter Knoll, was he also did he stay in the furniture design? Because that's
Yes,
very
yes.
modern furniture. It's very
Yeah,
interesting because
yeah.
it's like a
I
very modern.
think, yeah, for one period he ruled the company, and after, if I remember, but it's easy to find on Wikipedia or
Yeah.
other website a good biography of the Knoll family. But in our field, he's very well known as a wristwatch collector, and about my memory, but he was confirmed by other people in Geneva these few days. Donc these pieces belong from his collection.
Okay. No, that's very interesting because I mean the Knoll furniture is like a very modern. It's like Eames, very
Yes, yes.
modern, mid-century modern, and he's going with these very kind of traditional watch. But the case is a
Yeah, of
very
course.
modern case for its time.
The movement, of course, is based on the old movement, but he has a very modern look now with this new silver dial and this very modern case, was typical of the new production of Patek Philippe from the early 1960s. And the condition
And
stay in amazing condition. It was untouched.
yeah, that's interesting. Now, what I want to ask you, so it's kind of an interesting thing because this was so Patek basically they took the 19th century movement, married it with they made the case in the 60s. How do collectors feel about this? Do they like the original 19th century or is it more interesting because you have this kind of modern marriage, What is
No,
the
no, we
kind of
have, in my opinion, we have to consider this species as fully made in 1960s. Of course, we know by some documentation belong from the first time he appears at auction. We know this reference about the special request and at the time donc was especially made on special request for a gentleman. But very often Patek Philippe registered some movement and they use them step by step when they need. Donc you can find, for example, Le Cool Tréboche, who were made in 1910, 1920s, and they only use the ébauche to produce a watch in 1940s, especially for
okay.
pocket chronometer and complicated pieces. Donc
So
they
this
use step
move,
by step, step by step. They order, for example, a dozen of movement, and they use a step by step when they need. Now, basically, the movement was registered at one point, but it was finished and encased later. In
yeah.
the present case, the watch was fully made. The first watch was fully made in 1970s, and the owner in the early 1960s asked to refurbish, to completely redo a new watch. But you know, Abraham Louis Breguet was the greatest watchmaker of all the time. Very often take, for example, his pieces from the 18th century, and in the early 19th century, he recased with the Empire style case and also a guilloché silver engine turn guilloché dial. Donc the watch were made with a Louis XVI style case with enamel dial. When they arrived back in France, in Paris, very often Breguet buys the watch and use the movement and refitted in a new case and a new dial to be more fashionable. And this is the type of thing exists already, and it's proved by many Breguet pieces from the early 19th century. Another
Yeah, no,
example is the famous Rubinstein oval shape watch made by Breguet. Basically, it was just a case for a portrait made in the early 19th century. And they had in the late 19th century a movement, a old movement inside to make a new watch. And after, this watch belonged from the famous Russian player, pianist player Arthur Rubinstein. Donc he has a very unusual shape, oval shape, and Breguet used this watch as a spirit for a collection of ladies' watches around 2000. La Reine de Naples, I find the name now, about the modern wristwatches, but if, in fact, it was inspired by an old pocket watch by Breguet. Donc it happens very often in the watch industry, this type of things.
no, it's fascinating. It's just an unusual like historical thing. Now, Arnaud, this is this is a Patek Philippe themed auction, and one of the lots that I want you to kind of explain to us is the solar clock, which is lot 18. Um, lot 18. Do you have it? Do you have it there, or should I show the catalog?
You can show the catalog, but we have also the clock here.
Okay, hang on one. Let's. Oh, there we go. Okay, okay. So this is amazing. So I've seen a lot of these solar clocks at auction, and they're quite. I mean, they're quite expensive. I mean, the prices like I'm shocked by the prices. I don't understand it. So this is 100 to 200,000 estimate. The current bid is 100,000. Um, and what is so special? Explain to us what is so crazy
Basic,
for the clocks, for the solar clocks.
okay, basically, this clock were invented by Patek Philippe in 1952 with a photo cell who go to give power to a small electric motor, and this electric motor with a gear of wheels will wind a pocket watch movement. Now, this one was invented and patented by Patek Philippe in the early 1950s, and it was the first development of the electronic division. And donc step by step, they produce different shape of clock. Donc it can be the dome clock, but it can be also a square shape, rectangular shape, mantel clock. And this one, after these pieces were made in the 50s, but in the late 60s, they start also to produce this dome clock with decoration, with enamel, cloisonné enamel panels, who are very difficult to produce. Donc, in fact, there is a plate of copper with a small gold fillet, and after they add different color of enamel. Donc, this technique is very well known because it was already used in China more of 2000 years. Donc, it's a millenary, double millenary technique. And after this technique arrived in Europe in the medieval area, it was used in Italy, but also in France, notably in Limoges area, who become in the 15th, 16th century a very great center for production of enamel. And after arrived the technique of the painting of enamel in Blois in Paris, and it was developed all over the Europe in the late 17th and 18th century. But to coming back to this very decorative clock, in fact, Patek Philippe in the late 1960s start to work with a few young enamelers, 5 or 6 of them, and they produce maximum two clocks per year. It's why they are rare. And
Oh,
every year, Patek Philippe produce a few of them. A lot of them are now kept in the Patek Philippe Museum. There is maybe 15 or 20 of them. Maybe some of them are not exhibit today. Just because Patek Philippe at the time, Mr. Henri Stern and after Philippe Stern, they want to keep the tradition of enameling in Geneva. Donc they closely work with Madame Suzanne Aurore for the small painting on enamel and with different people like Vuscalam, Michel Deville to produce the case of the cloisonné dome clock. Donc at the end, they produce few of them, and if they can't sell it, Philippe Stern keeps them for the museum, or if one was really amazing for his age, immediately he kept it for his personal collection. Donc at the end, it's why also you have in the Patek Philippe Museum a lot of enamel pieces. And in fact, when I start this business as an auctioneer in 1990s, these type of things are very difficult to sell. You have to wait the year 2005 to have a real starting of collecting these pieces. And people start to really understand, and now Patek Philippe still produce every year a few dome clocks, few other nice clocks, but of course everything is pre-sale. At the time, it was difficult to sell them like the Nautilus, for example, or the Royal Oak AP in the 1970s, but now it's impossible. You have to be on the waiting list.
okay. So this particular clock, I think this was made to celebrate was it the 700-year
Yes,
anniversary of
of the Swiss,
Switzerland?
the born of the Swiss Confederation. It was a link of three small, what we call now canton. Donc they links together against the Habsburg, the Austrian imperial family, and step by step they increase the quantity of canton to arrive to what it is today, the Swiss Confederation. Now, for
Is
us in
this
Switzerland, it's a really important clock. I was a little bit surprised when we get this one for auction, but now we already have bid from a Swiss collector for this one.
Now this is a piece. Is this a piece unique?
All of them are piece unique. All
They're
of
all
them, because in any
okay.
case, all of them are made by hand, and you have to imagine this panel. Donc they are dome shape for the top, they are round, half round shape for the side, and imagine you have to put this panel few times on fire to have the decoration and the color. Donc imagine you have to put 10, 20 times the panel on fire for 900 degrees. After you add more color and you go to 800 degrees, and step by step you put the color, like for example the red to obtain the good quality, it's about 600 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so this is okay. So this is again. I saw one of these dome clocks. I think it's a modern production one at a Patek boutique. I think this was a. I forgot what the theme was. I think it might have been a New York theme. I'm not sure, so every clock is a one-off. They only make one, and that's it
Yes,
of the
of course,
solar
of
clock.
course. Like I said,
Okay.
you, it's a few enamel maker who produce that, and the capacity was to produce maybe two or three clocks maximum
Okay.
per year,
Okay.
and all of them are, of course, unique. In any case, you can have the clock with the same subject, but at the end, the color and the design would be a little bit different because they are unmade.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. So this is interesting because you have Patek Philippe, which is again the leading Swiss watchmaker, and this is a Swiss themed clock. So this is definitely
Yes, a Swiss
of
element.
interest for Swiss collectors for sure. It celebrates the Swiss history there. So
Yes.
what happened? Explain to me what happened with these clocks. Like, I've always seen this. I was like, who's buying these clocks? Are these people who are like very serious Patek collectors? This is because this is not like somebody just buys it for This has to be people who they already own. I don't know, 20 Pateks, and this is something. Who is the customer that buys these typically?
Now, about because of course I don't know all collectors of in the world of the Patek Philippe, and especially the people who buy only brand new watches or clocks from the shop or from the exhibition. But at the end, we know most of them, and yes, of course, there are strong wristwatch collector, and now don't, for security reason, very often you keep your wristwatch in a safe. You use them. It can be at home or in a bank, and you use them to wear every day. Few of them, but here you can put this table clock on your desk. And you can enjoy the Patek Philippe quality at every moment you
Oh,
are behind your desk and your computer to work.
okay, so the internet just the connection. Okay, the connection is back. It went out for a second. So
Yes.
the clock, it's a solar clock. So basically, how often do you need to service a solar clock? Is it because it
But
just keeps running?
inside, donc the PCs were made in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. They use a pocket watch movement, and the photo cell, like I explained at the beginning, give power to a small battery, a small motor who coming to wind the barrel of the movement. And after there is a second generation who are fully made of with a quartz movement. Donc the accuracy is roughly perfect, and this type of clock need to be serviced. I don't know, maybe every 10 years, but not really need to be serviced. Of course, the photo cell you can I can rewind the clock all the time, or the battery of the quartz movement, and at the end, yes, it's a kind of we can't set perpetual, but it's a kind of perpetual clock like the Atmos, made in a different way.
Okay. So what happened? You're saying that when you were first in the auction world, these were difficult to sell. And
In
like
the
what is it
1990s.
in 2005 all of a sudden people rediscovered these clocks? Like why what happened and what were the prices like in the early 2000s for these clocks? Like
But
eh,
roughly at the beginning of the year 2000, 2002, 2005, really on the market, you have a lot of Chinese collectors arrive on the market. People from
hmm,
Hong Kong, but Taiwan, but also mainland China, who are linked with friends in Hong Kong, and a lot of nice decorative things were sold from auction to the Chinese collectors. And it's why the price increased. But also, I know some American people who collect also clocks, especially this type of clocks made by Patek, not only Chinese people.
okay. How what were the prices like? How much were these selling for 20 years ago? These silver clocks.
Uh, a clock like that in the
Boom, yeah.
1995, with all the decoration, it was difficult to sell them for 25,000. You can
Okay.
sell them, but it was the price at auction at the time. And now at
Okay.
this and under 100,000, it's impossible to get one when they are decorated with this cloisonné panel. If they are only brass, the early model from the 60s, yes, sometimes you can get them for 25, 30,000.
Okay. The basic ones. And you have a few
Yes,
of the
yes.
simple the six okay in the auction. So it's
Yes, not a
interesting. Okay.
dome clock. We have one rare model, oval, like a half moon shape,
Okay.
with
But
also a
let me
really nice model.
I'll bring it up. Yeah, so so
Yes,
these are kind of the okay, but the dome clocks is really that's kind of these have really picked up a lot in value. It's interesting. Big increase. Okay, let's move on to wristwatches. I think that's most of our
yes,
audience is into wristwatches. So this is just I just find this fascinating. This is it's interesting because I think like what you said is these dome clocks are very, especially with cloisonne, that's very the Stern family has a very strong connection to this. They really I mean this is kind of like a pet project. They really love this stuff.
yes, yes,
It's they want they want to keep this alive. So let's move on to the Calatravas. You have some amazing modern I would say modern, 50s,
yes.
60s
This is from the
modernist design.
40s, 50s,
Okay.
60s, and we have a huge selection of time-only round shape wristwatches. Some of them with sub-second, some of them with central second, with different shape of lugs, fancy case. Donc a really interesting collection and affordable for everybody. Enfin, not everybody,
Yeah.
but a young collector
And,
or basic collector can spend a few
you know,
thousand. Or
it's an amazing value. Can you show lot 32? Lot 32.
yes, okay,
Okay.
this watch
That's
with
a really interesting case.
yes,
With
the
the lugs.
shape of the
Wow.
legs are amazing, and the condition of this watch also is really great. It's also double signed.
Wow. It's okay. So the signature. Okay, so the signature is but it's a Bayer.
Bayer,
Yes,
Bayer Zurich, yes.
Bayer. Okay, and this is the estimate is 10. This is 1944 design. 10,000 to 20,000 is the estimate, and
Yes.
it's the current bid is 12,000. And this is sorry, this is a manual or automatic? This is manual, yeah?
Manual winding.
Manual.
Manual
I love
winding.
manual watches. Wow. Can you show us the lug profile? Show us the size. How is exactly if you can bring up on the turn it on its side so we can see how the shape of the look at that on the wrist. Okay. Wow.
For the time, it was already a nice size, because basically the watches from the 1930s, 1940s has to be 33 millimeters. Donc here we have with a watch about 36 millimeter, who was at the time
Okay.
oversized.
That's very big. So that's actually 36. This is a 36 millimeter watch.
Yes, I don't remember exactly at half millimeter, but yes, it's
Okay.
roughly 36 millimeters.
Okay, so that's actually very interesting because a lot of these modern collectors, they want the bigger size, but this is really interesting because you get this very modern design on the dial, a very modernist, clean, modern design. The lugs
Yeah,
are
it's
really
like
interesting.
you can see it's like okay, and this one also is a double sign Bayer, but you can see the
Yeah,
very
yeah, it's
modern look.
same. It's a sister watch.
Yes, true. Donc, with the index faceted, lapidated, faceted indexes, some of them call that obus, and the Dauphine ends was used by Patek Philippe. Donc, yes, it's really similar dial. It's why for me it's really interesting. When I tell you before the 2-tone, 3-tone sector dial, donc sometimes you can get for very reasonable price as a pocket watch, and you can clearly study the real condition of this watch. For my job every day as an expert, it's important to have some reference pieces to remember exactly the real original states. And it's why, for
Okay,
example, at home I have a huge collection of movement. I don't care about the case, but it's just to have the movement, the escapement. But I have few also of these dress watches, not only made by Patek, but with unusual dial, can be made by Vacheron, Audemars Piguet, or other brands. And a few of them, and I can clearly refresh my eyes sometimes about
I
the
mean,
condition.
the combination of that case design with the lugs, that kind of lug design, it's so interesting. It's like, and I'm shocked it's such a big watch, 36 millimeter. Wears like a modern watch, but you'll never see anybody else wearing that watch. I don't think you'll. How many pieces do you think they made like that? I mean, you had
I
access
don't
to the archives.
remember exactly, but he was mentioned, of course, in the catalog about the reference we have. But there are so many reference. Unfortunately, I can't memorize all these numbers. But this one, donc he was launched in 1940, produced until 1965, was a long period for a model of Patek. And
But this case, but
this,
with these lugs, I don't think they made too many like this.
now they made on these 25 years of production, they made 400 pieces, around 400 pieces.
With these, with this case design, with these lugs.
Yes.
Wow.
In
Okay, so
25 years, the manufacturer produced this watch for 25 years, which a really long period for
okay,
a reference, a really long period. But he exists with central second and subsidiary seconds,
okay.
with
So
these
four,
all the different movements they produce at the time.
so 400. Okay, and so we got a question. So this is 1940, right? This is 1940 watch.
Yes, so
Yeah.
basically, yes, the movement was launched at this time. And this specific example was produced in 1944.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So it's interesting. So there's a yeah. I've never seen that type of. I mean, it's like this is amazing. Um, and it's actually a very good value, especially compared to let's say modern Patek, a modern Calatrava. I mean,
Yes,
everybody has a
because,
modern Calatrava. This nobody
yes,
has.
yeah, exactly. And for sure, the price of any Patek Philippe wristwatches now is at least the double of this one, the entry
Yeah,
price in the catalog.
I think anything under 15,000 is a steal for this watch. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
incredible value. We got a question. Has the wa- is the has the watch ever been polished? Do you know?
This one, the condition, yes, it was probably, yeah, no, the condition is really good, but maybe one time he was probably serviced, maybe one time. But he kept a very crispy edge. But of course, we never know. Huh? You know, a watch was
Yeah,
more half
it
century.
looks
We
very
never
crisp.
know. But in any case, if it was repolished one time, it was properly done by the watchmaker or the manufacturer who do that. Huh?
Okay. And you can see all the hallmarks on the back. They're still showing on the back of the.
Yes, yes. Inside the case back, of course, you have the hallmark by Patek Philippe. But after, you have also to understand because now everybody focus on the stem visible outside of the case. But in fact, the watch who were commercialized in the Swiss market no need to be stamped at the time outside of the case. It was the regular thing at the time. It was only when the watch has to be exported outside of Switzerland,
Mhm.
they start to add additional stamp outside of the
Okay.
case.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So we have like I think you have in this auction. It's really interesting. You have I think six really interesting shaped Calatravas. Uh, so the next one is lot 33. Was it 1949? And this one is uh, lot 33 is I think was it
Yes, with
50?
a kind of fan shaped lugs who are just amazing about the shape
Yeah.
of the lugs. Super fancy lugs. Donc this one is a watch who was made in 1949. The dimension, the side of this one is less, as you can see. Huh? Donc this one now is a 33 millimeter. And to be exact, the previous.
You got it's 15, was it 15 to 30,000? 15 to 30, and there's a current bid of
Yes,
16.
about the value of the watch. Donc this one has a typical, also a nice dial with Breguet numerals.
How about I'm personally I love the more kind of modern that kind of more modern design of like what about lot 34? 34 is really interesting. 34 has that
Yes,
beautiful.
34. Donc it's also, donc this one is a 35 millimeters.
Okay.
Was made in gold, but he has also a very unusual case band. Okay,
It
it's
looks
a
like a
ring
very like a
shape,
thick
but
like a
very
thick
unusual,
case.
and also the lugs are really unusual.
Yeah, no, it's a very like it's a very modernist feel, and this is this is also this is manual wind also, yeah.
Yes, all of them are manual winding, not automatic, not self-winding. Donc it's yes, a basic wristwatch, but this one is a really rare configuration of case, and this one maybe 250 pieces of them were made.
Okay. So this, okay, so I need to ask you this question. So, right, so the estimate on this watch is, what is it, 7 to 14,000. The current
Yes.
bid is the current bid is only 8,000. Why is this? It seems like a very. Why is this less? Why is this priced less than the, like? Why is this cheaper? Like this is like a beautiful watch. Why is this less than the others? I mean, it's a very there's less
But
like
it
what
depends, of course,
am I
every
missing?
time when you put a watch at auction. Okay, we try to have to be fair about estimate with everybody and to have a right estimate. But this one, in fact, was give us with a really reasonable reserve price. Donc it's why we are very conservative about the estimate.
How and what's the size of that? What's the size of that
This one
watch?
is a 35 millimeter.
Okay, can you show it on your wrist so
Yeah,
we
of
can see what it
course.
looks like? Okay. Okay, that's a nice, yeah,
The
looks
pink
great.
one with rare.
And I saw in the catalog you have a lot 42 looks like a very similar design. In the case is a very similar kind of. They look
Uh,
similar.
42, yes, yes, but the 42 is also a little bit more larger and is coming also with self-winding movement. And also
And
the
that one
lot
is steel.
42. No, no, the lot
Okay, so
42 is in white
white
gold.
gold. Excuse me, white
Yes,
gold.
yes,
White
yes.
gold.
One of the few examples known in white gold.
Okay,
12
so
of
so
them
lot.
are known.
Okay, so lot 42 is 70 to 140,000.
Yes,
Current and the current bid is 76. So this is probably going to go. It's looks. So that's actually it's interesting. So it looks it looks almost the same. I mean, except it's white gold. Almost same design. Look at that. So because it's white gold,
it's because it's
it's
white gold and only 12 examples are known.
okay.
That it's
The-
self-winding. And also this one has a water-resistant case back.
Okay. Okay.
The Lot 34 is a snap-on case back.
Okay.
But it's really about the rarity of the
The rarity. Okay.
self-winding version of the white gold. But it's true, this Lot 34, it's a good bargain.
Okay.
And
Yeah. No.
especially
It's
if you want to be nice with your wife, you can put on a fancy pink
yeah.
burgundy or pink bracelet, and it can really be cool for ladies.
I think you know what I like about these watches with a strap is you can always change the strap, and
Yes, of
like
course.
if it's for a lady, she could do like white alligator, shiny alligator,
Yes,
pink
yes.
shiny, green, crazy colors, and change it all the time. You can change it,
E-
every week you
Every
could change it.
every time I going to Geneva, I have a friend who is a strap maker, and he made a lot of
Yeah.
strap for famous brands. But very often he complain about the people are not enough fancy. All times they want the
Conservative,
black, the blue,
the basic
the
brown,
brown.
black. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and. Very often when I give a small, of course not Patek, but small fancy wristwatches to my children, very often I put some, especially for my daughters, fancy green, turquoise blue, a
You know
little
what?
bit
No.
pink
You know what?
dials.
You know what? I love the what is it? Galushat. We Galushat.
Yes, yes.
Stingray. I love it. It
The
was a
shark skin. Yes, yes.
this thing. I love that. That's amazing. The galuchat is And who does it? I think it was Jean Rousseau makes the galuchat. That's their specialty, right? The Jean Rousseau in
Yes,
Paris.
yes, and now
Camille
there is two or
Fournet.
three, but in a yeah, for the wristwatch, very at the end, roughly nobody use the galucha, but it's still used in restoration of furniture, snuff
Yeah,
boxes, and things like that. And there are two or three makers in Paris who use galucha, the shark skin or the rousset, the name of the fish, the skin of fish, the rousset. Yes.
yeah. No, it's amazing. So what about? I want to also show. Now it looks to me like you have the watches that you have. They're like it looks like there's a lot of interest in is the anti-magnetic watches, right? Which is
Yes, exactly.
37 to 39. Let me bring that up on the. Uh, I'll bring it up in the catalog. Can you tell us? Can you explain to us this whole anti-magnetic line from Patek? What was that all about? Is it similar to like the Rolex Milgauss? Is it the same idea?
Yes, it was exactly the same idea, especially after the Second World War, who we have more people who is involved in the electric world, the central to produce electricity or nuclear energy. And especially in Geneva, you have also the CERN, who is a
Sarah,
kind of
yeah.
international laboratoire for this type of technology. And donc, of course, Rolex produce the Milgauss, EWC produce Ingenieur, and Patek Philippe produce their own magnetic watches. Donc we have, yes, in this auction, incredible section of magnetic wristwatches who are really interesting, especially because they were only made on special purpose. Patek Philippe start to produce them. They sell because it was more expensive as a regular watch, of course, because the movement is fitted inside a soft iron capsule. And after that means you have very often a more large case, and they produce this type of watches only on special request. Now here, yes,
Okay.
for example, we have three example. Two of them are the famous magnetic name on the dial,
Can we
and
zoom in? Can we, come in a little closer? Okay,
yes,
there we
yes,
go. Okay, okay. And this is, from what I understand, that these have become very popular in the last few years. All of a sudden, people, the collectors have kind of gone crazy about these for the last couple of years.
yeah, no, no. Since yes, we are now 2024. I will say since just before the COVID 2018, people really start to realize the rarity of a lot of vintage Patek Philippe wristwatches. Donc, it's also the fact of the amazing study was made by Eric Tortella, and some also study made by myself sometimes. But yeah, no, it's true. Since a few years, people really consider this type of watches and realize the rarity of this model. They understand properly now, understand the quality of this type of wristwatches.
How many anti-magnetic watches did Patek make, do you think?
I don't. If we take all the reference they produced between the late 1950s until the 1980s, it's a maximum of. Well, I don't. I will count all of them reference by reference now, because your question is interesting. But I think it's a maximum of 1,000 pieces, a great, great, great maximum of 1,000 pieces for all
And that's
reference,
okay.
including stainless steel case, yellow gold, pink gold case.
So that's probably
It,
how many references did they have of the anti-magnetic?
I think if we want to be complete, it's about 20 reference you can find
Okay,
with a
so
magnetic
only
movement.
okay, so that means maybe 50 watches per reference were made.
Yes, some of them less, and some reference are more common, but it's a good question. I will calculate that later.
That's interesting. Wow. So this is, it's with Patek. Explain. Is it with Patek? Is it really the Patek collectors? Are they more interested in rarity or beauty? What is the or both? Like, what is that like?
But
That is it?
and I will add state of conservation, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
a rail collector will focus, of course, on all these criteria. Of course,
Hmm.
different type of reference, different. That means different shape of watches, and of course, you can. Some of them will love large watches. Some people prefer small size. But of course, yes, yes, it's about the beauty, the rarity, and the set of conversation. If you want to build a real good condition. But for example, in this auction, we have very few square, rectangular shape watches. But this
Hmm.
type of thing, in my opinion, stay undervalued at the moment because of course everybody focus on complicated wristwatches, especially when they are perpetual calendar, chronograph, split second chronograph. Now there is a kind of fashion about all the self-winding movement produced by Patek Philippe in the 50s, the 60s. Since few years, but people realize the rarity of the amagnetic watches. But one thing will probably coming back in the few next year will be the rectangular shape watches
Hmm. Okay.
with the
Interesting. See,
incredible. They produce an incredible 990 movement, was a kind of rectangular tonneau shape shape.
okay.
Yes.
The what is it? The chocolatone, I think. Chocolatone, I think you call it.
Yes, it's one of them. Of course, this one is very well known because the size is really oversized. Probably one of the
Okay.
biggest wristwatch ever made by Patek Philippe about the vintage watches. But you have a lot of rectangular shape was actually really undervalued from the
Okay. So
40s and the 50s.
okay, interesting. So you're saying that the rectangular Pateks is going to be the next big thing
Probably,
that collect.
probably. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
probably.
You, and you have a few in this auction. You have, let me see. You have let me
Not a
I'll
lot,
bring
not a
this.
lot. We have
You have
few.
three.
Okay, I don't spoke about the oversized uh, rectangular shape from 1919, but yes, there is only
Oh,
three
that's
or
interesting.
four of four
This
pieces.
the 1919 watch, the which is lot 19. Okay, it's lot 19.
Yes, yes,
Uh, that's it's. I mean, how big is that? Do you have it right there where you can show it, or
yeah,
because
yeah, of
that's an interesting.
course.
Okay, I saw an interview with Jean Arnaud, the son of Bernard, the Bernard
Yes, of
Arnaud,
course. Yeah, yeah.
and I think he has this watch in his collection. Like he has only a few watches, but I think he has
Yes,
this.
I know some of the Arnaud, two of the son of Bernard Arnaud are really Patek Philippe fan, and they have some good wristwatches. Yes, I know that. Yes, yes. I don't know which one, but I heard from
But
different
this, I
people.
saw this model. I think he has this model, which is uh, and which I was surprised because he's very young. I think he's in his 20s. This is like,
Yes,
you know, I
yes.
would I would think he would be, this would be like too old fashioned, but I was very surprised. Can you show that on your wrist, just so we can
Yes,
see
of
what it looks
course.
like? So this is one of the earliest. This is like one of the first wrist, like actual wrist watches.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
it was
very big
produced in
size,
1919, and he's at the time already oversized, but he fit perfectly the wrist
and it's
because as
curved,
you
and
can
it's
see,
curved.
it's curved. Yes, it's curved.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's actually really very innovative for 1919. This is 100 over 100 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
105
At the
years old.
time, it was one of the first wristwatches shape was made at the time.
Okay, and so this is okay. So the estimate is 60 to 120,000. 62,000 is the bit. And these are luminescent marker. The luminescent numerals.
Yes, yes, true. Donc at the time they use radium,
I was
who is now completely unauthorized to do it. But at the
okay.
time, yes, the phosphorescent material was the radium, and after later
So
they used the tritium.
okay, so the radium on this watch, so it's a little bit radioactive, a little bit, right?
Yes, but not anymore. It's the watch is 100 more of 100 years now. Donc the radium
But
is past.
does it still does it still light up in the dark? Does it still
No, no,
luminesce?
unfortunately, no, no,
Oh,
not
it's all gone.
anymore. Yeah, not
Okay,
anymore.
okay, okay. No, that's amazing. Okay, I want to ask you about one more watch that I'm interested in, but after that, I want you to tell us what watches you think are the most interesting in the auction. If you can say, I don't know, you want to be diplomatic, but uh, but I want to ask you about lot 49, which is the perpetual calendar.
Yes. Donc le 49, it's a watch in amazing condition. Donc it's self-winding. It was in fact the first self-winding perpetual calendar ever produced by any Swiss manufacturer in series. Donc he has a very modern look. Look, this
Yeah,
nice
that's
couple of watch.
yeah,
And this is
the case.
the production of the 1962. Donc, who looks very, very modern, of course, with a triangular shape, lapidated lugs. Donc, of course, and this one is, he was never worn. Of course, he has some scratches, but he was never used. Maybe
Really?
wear one or two times, but it's absolutely untouched. And the watch
Wow.
coming also with boxes, certificates, and the condition. Donc this one was never polished.
Okay. So the estimate is 200 to 400,000. The current bid is 200,000. You know what?
Yeah.
To me, I think this I consider this like the blue chip of Patek Philippe for collectors or for investing. Like this is like the you know what blue chip does that
Especially about
American.
the condition of the watch. When you have a watch like that, in pristine condition, of course, it can never lose value.
But this is so this is such what I find amazing is you have this very classic modern design that's timeless. This is a timeless design. It looks great today, and it seems like the value is really what I think at auction. Some of these have gone for again. I've seen these like in the 300,000 plus range all the
Yes,
time.
of course, and especially if you find a rare white gold version, you can fetch a lot of money now. But especially
Mm.
this one is really important about this model to have untouched case, not repolished case, because at the time it was, lapidated lugs. They use diamonds in the brush wheel to faceted the lugs. And when you have a watch like that in amazing condition like that, is crazy. Probably
Can you show?
one of the best available on the market.
Can we get a close up, a little bit close up for the camera? Let's see if we can get. Oh, okay. Well,
It's coming.
okay. Yeah, it's let's see here.
Yes, now
And
I have the wrist on the watch on my wrist.
okay, hang on. Let me see. Okay, so the camera is not on. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. That's beautiful. It's kind of a thick case. It's a substantial.
Yeah, because you have the central rotor inside. And this is a self-winding movement plus the perpetual calendar plate. But at the end, when you look the watch, okay, it's why they have this flat inclined bezel, and also the case back has this inclined part. But no, of course the watch is not thick, but the construction and the shape of the watch is really nicely made. And of course, it's a very modern look.
No, yeah, I love the lugs. Everything about it is, and it's interesting. Was it Patek? They kind of copied this design for the annual calendar. Now, was it the
They
5396?
recopy, a few years ago to a new model. Yes, of course.
But this is, what I had 5396, and what bothered me is, I like the date going in the bottom subdial, not the 24-hour. I don't want the 24-hour indicator. Like, I don't need it. What do I need it for? I don't understand it. I want to see the date.
Okay, after as soon you can add more and more complication, horological complication in a so small size. Of course, it's a tour de force. But no, here it's very simple, very elegant, and there is nothing to said about this watch. Just beauty.
Yeah. No, this is, I think, the classic, probably the best, in my humble opinion. Like, this is like the investment potential. Like, when people talk about investing in watches, this is, I think, one of the the number one or two. This is like,
Yes,
I think it's going to be.
especially when you have a watch like that in amazing condition, coming with original box and papers. Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
to where it's crazy. No, the price is the estimate is great. Okay, Arnaud, now I want to ask you this. Okay, so I asked you. So I'm very selfish. So I wanted to ask you about watches that I'm interested in personally. Now it's your turn. What watches do you think are the most interesting in this auction? What are you most
But for
interested in
me,
here?
it's of course the one we put on the cover of the catalog, the reference 2497, was for me all time a dream to, if I have the one day the opportunity to have a watch like that. And this one also is in incredible condition. Super.
Do you have it? Do you have it there?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could show it to us. Okay.
Yes, here. Now, it's a
Okay. Hang
perpetual
on.
calendar from the previous generation with a movement. I am in love with this movement, the 27 SC, Central Second on this caliber. It's really nicely made. And here with perpetual calendar plate, it's amazing. It's like a 2499, the perpetual chronograph, but also this type of watches. By the fact everybody focused the last years on the 2499, who feature really great price. Now the 1518 who is also the first generation of perpetual calendar chronograph, start at auction to create amazing price. But this one, for me, is at the moment undervalued because it's extremely rare reference. They made very few of them, and this one is probably the best example known on the market, also coming original with original box, original certificate, and original invoice.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the estimate here is
Also
300 to
very,
600.
very conservative. It's also 200 to 300 to 400,000.
Yeah. I think was it? I think you have this one here is was it 300 to 600,000, and the current bid is 360. So 360,000. Okay. Interesting. Wow, okay, okay. So this is your favorite lot in the sale.
Yeah, yeah, it's rare because also it's what collector call now Vichy case, and they produce. In fact, donc he was one of the case maker who work closely with Patek Philippe, and for this reference, only 12 of them are known with this flat case back made by Vichy, Émile Vichy. Yeah, no, this one is a dream for me. It's a dream
Okay.
watch.
Hang on, I want to one thing I want to ask you about. What other what other watches, anything, any other lots in the sale that you think actually, let me see, what do you think is the kind of the most undervalued or sleeper, if you will, in the current auction? Can you say that? Which one is sort of
Maybe at the moment, maybe the split second chronograph 1436, because most of our collectors and friends focus on these two perpetual calendar. Of course, it's the dial are very impressive with the moon phase, but actually we have a really interesting early split second chronograph also with a really amazing watch. It's not like new old stock like these two watches. It's not full set, but it's a really nice and impressive chronograph.
okay, here it is. It's on the screen over here. 200 to 400,000 estimate. 200,000 is the bid. Yeah, it's really interesting. And this is was it 1946, and this is this is kind of a small 30. This is 33 millimeter, right? So these are
Yeah,
always
it was a
small.
regular size of the chronograph. Basically, donc it's a reference 130, but they add, of course, a split second device on it. And in fact, very few of them were made because the adjustment of the split second is something with not so easy. Donc he has a regular function of a chronograph. You can start, stop, reset to 0. And here on the chron, you have the function of the split second chrono. Donc, second stop, come back, stop, come back, and you can record a few events. Donc, this one, of course, is not in mint condition like the other two, but it's still a very amazing watch.
Okay, interesting. All right, so the auction is Saturday.
Yes, for us, the ending of the auction will be at 10 o'clock evening. Donc that
Okay.
means 4 o'clock afternoon in Paris or in Geneva. 2 o'clock afternoon in London, and it will be, if I don't make mistake, something like 10 o'clock morning time in New York.
Okay, so futuregrail.com is where people can sign up. Arnaud, okay, so I want to ask you, you know, when you came on the live stream last time, I actually didn't know that much about your background. I didn't know, like, you know,
Okay.
I don't know, I didn't know you were going to be on the show. So then I had to Google it. So then I saw the watch that you made. You actually were a watch, like, and it completely blew me away. I want to bring this up on this because, like, see, you're a Patek Philippe guy all your life. Patek, the museum, but this I want to bring this up on screen because the design of the watch is hang on a second. The design of the
Yes,
watch is
two
crazy.
LMX project.
Yeah. So you hang on. Let me see if it comes up here. So this is the design, and it's very futuristic. I mean, this is like, you know, and this was, I think, done in the 15 years ago, roughly.
Yes, we start. In fact, it was the project. It was long talking with two friends. Start to have this idea with me in 2008 and things like that. And when I leave the museum in 2012, I said, okay, we will try to launch this incredible watch. If you find the video on YouTube. You will see the guy also who made with us the video was absolutely amazing. And yes, in fact, he was futuristic for the time. And we arrived with this idea with my friend maybe 10 years too earlier, because now it's all the fashion of the independent watchmaker. But this one at the time, yeah, at the time we start to produce, we made with the tourbillon movement, everything, but we can't get any money from nobody was really interesting in 2000 to invest in independent
It
watchmaking.
was Yeah, no, it was ahead of its time. Now
Yes.
it's everybody, independent watchmaking is like, oh, everybody, like, so how many of these watches were made?
Unfortunately, just a prototype. We have two or three
Okay.
movements who are in the way to be finished, and the prototype work, but still have some at the time some trouble with the watch. Need a lot of power to adjust the roller, and
Okay, okay.
unfortunately, you need a new development, and to do all of that, need to have, of course, some money. But at the period, nobody was interested. But now I have two or three people who are really interested to relaunch the project. But everything is under patent. Was made with my friend Stéphane Lacroix, and we will see if we can restart this project with a young, brilliant watchmakers.
Okay. And so who did you design you which part did you do? Did the design or which
But it
part?
was an idea, in France especially. My friends and myself love to have good dinner with good wines. And we draw on the table of the restaurant some idea, and step by step, after a few months, he arrived at this idea. And the idea was to have a very readable digital watch, because a lot of
Okay.
watches were still made now or at the time for digital purpose. It was roughly impossible to read the time. But here it was, the idea was to increase the quality of the reading of the watch.
Okay, okay. So it's very interesting because, like, your background, this classical, Patek Philippe, and you've done this, like, space age, design. And now, okay, so the auction house for Future Grail, you get the Patek Philippe theme. The next, when is the next auction? And you also, I mean, again, you do independent, you do everything, other watch. When is the next auction scheduled?
But it will be first at all to find some good watches to put at auction. The main purpose with Ali is to find great stuff in good quality, real good
Hmm.
quality. We don't need the quantity, but we need the rarity and the quality of the watch. We have few idea, we have few things actually on way, but the contract are not fully signed with the seller. But in any case, we will make an exhibition in November in Geneva, and for
Okay.
the next auction. Donc, I have already here a collection of 100 pocket watches. Most of them are decorative watches from the late 19th century, early 20th
Okay.
century, and we can already propose a group. We will split this collection maybe in three times. And donc this is the base of the next purpose. We have, of course, few modern independent watches, few second-hand Patek Philippe watches already in the safe, and we have 2 or 3 good things on the way. But we will talk about that when the contract will be fully signed.
Okay. So you're gonna be in Geneva in November. There's
Yes,
gonna be an exhibit
in
in November.
November,
Okay.
yeah, to redo a second exhibition in La Maison de l'Horlogerie.
Okay.
Donc just behind the Four Seasons Hotel.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Arnaud, thank you again for joining
You're very
us,
welcome.
and we look forward to seeing you. Hope, yeah, I might be actually in Geneva around that time. When in November? What date? Do you know?
It will be around the 7th to the 13th of November, from the
Okay.
7th to the 13th.
I might. I think there's a couple of auctions at that time, right? There's going to be a couple of
Yes, of
auctions.
course. There is
Oh,
the auction from the competitors, and it's just before the Grand Prix de Genève.
okay. Okay. It'd be interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Arnaud, thank you again, and good luck with the sale. There's some great watches,
Thank you
and
very
I
much.
encourage everybody to check out the Future Grail auction. I think there's actually some great bargains here. Especially the shaped Calatravas. I mean, those are like, there's some good deals there.
And
Okay,
you have
thank you very much, and
also explained on the website with a lot of literature, comments,
oh, there
footnotes.
it is. There's all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
there's all the watches.
yes.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Thanks.
Thank you again.